How are you, Mike? How's Vegas treating you?
Great. Every time I come here, it's always a pleasure to be here and I have a lot of fun. I know a lot of people, so it's always. I met new friends today too, or yesterday.
Oh,
So
nice. Do you like do
it's great
some
here.
training with like people that are in Vegas that you don't
Yeah,
really get to train with often when you're here?
exactly. But I met Cody Steele. He's a grappler. He grappler turned pro MMA fighter, and I had never met him in person, but I talked to him all the time online. So it was cool to get to train with him for once.
Yeah, that's so cool. So how was your fight camp?
Um, Iffy. It was good and bad. I'm not going to disclose the bad yet because the fight hasn't happened. But after the fight, I
Mhm.
can disclose that. Um, Other than that, it's been amazing. I feel great. I'm fully healed from my injuries that I had in 2020, so my body feels a lot better, and I think that's going to play a big role in my performance going forward.
Right, okay. Yeah, I mean, I know fight camp is never quite smooth, but hopefully it wasn't anything too bad this time around. Another thing I wanted to ask is, do you have any like pre-fight rituals?
Pre-fight, I like going out to the cage or so, or just
Yeah,
stuff I
or like
do
in
before.
preparation, like mentally to get your head right, that kind of thing.
I actually talked to one of the therapists at the PI. Me and him are really good friends, so we talk a couple times a week. Uh, because like your mentality is the biggest thing that plays a role in your performance. If you're not mentally ready to fight, no matter how good you are not going to win. So I talk to him a lot to make sure that my head's clear, my head's focused, and there's nothing distracting me from the specific moment in time instead of focusing on what could happen, what will happen, what can happen. It's just what is happening.
Right. Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Um, so what kind of preparation do you do for a fight? Like when you're coming up with your strategy, like are you someone that watches a lot of tape or do you just delegate that to your coaches? What kind of person are you in terms of fight prep?
So I never watch or study film on my opponents, and I do that for a reason because one, if I look you up, you look me up, what are you gonna see? You're gonna see me beating the shit out of people. Can I curse on here?
Yeah, of
You're gonna
course,
see
of
me
course.
beating the shit out of people. You're gonna see me knocking people out, submitting people, all my highlights. You're not gonna see me getting beat up ever. Like I'm never gonna post myself getting beat up. So all you're gonna see is amazing. Like this kid's amazing. He's spin kicked this guy, knocked out this guy. So that's all I'm gonna see, and it's gonna make me feel like, damn, this is gonna be a hard fight, even though my skill set might be tremendously better than that kid. I'm still gonna think about that he's dangerous because all I see is him highlights. So I never watch fights. My coaches do, and then it's kind of like secretly, I know how it goes, but secretly they'll put me with people that imitate or are similar to style. That way, while I'm sparring through my fight camp, I'm going with people that are similar to how this fight's going to go and how this fighter's going to fight. And then he will also correct um, instances in my techniques where things need to be better because this guy can do this and this guy can do that. So the fight camp
Right,
went really
okay.
well. I learned so much this fight camp. I learned so much in the last year since I fought Vyacheslav. From there to now, I have tripled in my skill set.
Right. And do you feel like you make most of those improvements like in camp or out of camp when you have more time and more, I don't know, mental energy to work on things you're not as, good at?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely out of camp. In camp is highly focused towards what this guy does and how he trains. So a lot of the things I'm learning are just to negate what he does. But when I'm not in camp, everything that I learn is to increase my personal skill set to make me a better fighter. So I think outside of the fight camp is where I learn the most.
Okay, I see. Um, so yeah, it totally makes sense if you aren't watching tape for your opponents in preparation for fights, but do you like have any kind of favorite fighters that you take inspiration from outside of that kind of game planning context?
for preparation.
No, like I mean in terms of you're a boxer, so maybe you really like Dustin Poirier or that kind of thing.
Oh, do I watch? I'm sorry, I watch people.
Yes.
Uh, not really, not really. The only focus I have going into a fight is to make sure that me personally, my skill set is at its peak. Um, there is a moment in your fight camp, and you'll see it, you'll feel it, you'll know that you have hit a limit, like a plateau. And when you get there, your body just doesn't want to do anymore. That's where I try to get to every fight camp. And when
Okay,
I
I
get
see.
there, I hone in and I keep it there as long as I can.
Right.
That's like
Um,
the only thing I focus on in fight camp.
okay, that makes sense. So one of my favorite fights of yours is that scrap you had with Sodiq Yusuff on Contender Series. I just wanted to ask you about that fight. Like, what was the whole Contender Series experience like for you?
Um, it was my first time with experiencing the UFC, and they flew me out to Vegas to see the PI. They got my fingerprints done for the PI, so I can go wherever I want. All this stuff. They showed me around. The Conor McGregor was on the rise at the time, so they had a big poster of him, and I met Dana White. Uh, that was the first time. I think my first time coming to Vegas, so I got to explore. I walked, I think, like 23 miles.
Wow.
So it was amazing. And when I came back for the fight itself, I didn't even know who I was fighting. I knew his name, but I didn't know anything. I didn't know what he looked like. I didn't know nothing about him until I saw him across the cage. And I was like, oh,
Wow.
okay.
Is that how you would prefer for it to be for your mental state?
It'd be interesting. I mean, if I don't know what you look like before we fight, that would be kind of like a surprise. I had another interviewer ask me something, and I told them it would be very skill based. So your skill set would have to be as good as possible. The way I like to train, make my own skill set really good. My skill set has to be perfect because I don't know who I'm going to fight. We're going to show up one on fight night, and that's when I see who I'm fighting. They're never going to tell me. They're never going to show nothing. We're both going to make weight, and the only time I know who I'm fighting is when he's standing across the cage from me. That right
Mm,
there will get rid of all this match, like no matchmaking. You can even just shuffle a hat. Like, I think it'd be interesting to do.
yeah, that would be really interesting. I mean, it kind of sounds like if you aren't someone that likes watching a lot of tape on your opponents, it's kind of like you're almost emulating that for yourself. Like you don't want to get in your head about
Mm,
expectations of your opponent and that type of thing.
yeah, it wouldn't play into those people specifically, but for people like me that just focus on themselves, my personal skill set, it's like the best thing. It would be the best organization.
Yeah, for sure. That would be really interesting. So I mean that fight with Sadiq Yusuff was an incredible fight, and obviously you looked great, and made it to the UFC anyways. You put on a great performance, and so I'm just wondering, would you be interested in a potential rematch down the line with Yusuff?
I want to actually train with Yusuf. So
Mm.
he is smaller than me, and he fights at 45, and he's still able to make it. I cannot get anywhere near 45 anymore. I'm too big. So I wouldn't want a rematch, but I would like to train with him.
That would be interesting. Um, yeah, I mean, as a fan, I would love to see the rematch because it was a great scrappy fight, but that also makes sense to me. And I feel like once you share the cage with someone, you have a lot of insight in terms of making them a better fighter and them for you as well.
2 days, Mike Davis would absolutely destroy a Sadiq Yusuff. I would beat Gilbert Burns if I was against him again.
Yeah.
I'm that confident in my skill set now.
Right. And I totally think that as when you get to the UFC level and you're training for that level, your skill set would just improve so rapidly and being surrounded by, the right coaches and the right training partners, I can see how your development would be quite rapid. And I feel like we saw it in like the fight that just happened with Sean O'Malley. Like we see how much he's improved in a short amount of time, and I
Yeah,
think that that's true for all UFC fighters.
it's crazy, but it's 100% true.
Yeah, for sure. So
I want to to that involving that and studying fighters because some fighters don't fight like me. I haven't fought in a year, and I don't fight. I only fight once a year. So what you're studying is stuff I knew a year ago. Like, how is that going to help you? I'm three times again, like, three times the fighter I was a year ago. So how is that going to help you at all? Like that's what I mean. So I'm studying your
yeah,
fight from 6 months ago. In 6 months, you could be entirely. You could change your whole stand. You could be an orthodox fighter now from a southpaw. You can change everything. So it
yeah,
doesn't
for
make sense
sure.
to study people.
Well, also in the past year, you got promoted to brown belt in jiu-jitsu, right?
I did, yeah, I did. I'm in
Congratulations.
brown belt. Thank you,
That's
thank you.
awesome. Um, so do you hope to get the chance to utilize your jiu-jitsu more in future fights?
Yeah, I just fight as the fight goes. Um, but because my last fight went the way it did, I feel like that is a showcase sign for me to use my grappling more often, since it does
Hmm.
negate people almost entirely.
Right.
And I think it'll make for lesser injuries in fights and easier wins. I don't want to go full Khabib, but I'm definitely gonna bring some grappling in.
Yeah, for sure. And we also see that you rely on your wrestling skill set as well when things get a little bit messy in your fights. And I feel like just being a more well-rounded fighter as well is going to serve you really well in the future. So the lightweight division is like widely regarded as fans as one of the most exciting divisions in the UFC. And
For
at
sure.
the top of your division, there are like just some absolute legend fighters. So do you have like a dream matchup for yourself in your division?
No, no. I hate fighting, and I never look forward to fighting somebody. So for me to have like a dream matchup, this doesn't make sense.
Okay, interesting. Why do you hate fighting?
It's brutal. It's nonsense. It's not necessary. I love training, and the fighting portion of my training allows me to do this for a living and not work a 9 to 5. So it's technically gives me all the freedom I need to live a life. So I sacrifice my mentality and my body for this one night. It's going to be a few times this year, but one night a year since it's been to have that worldwide freedom.
Wow. Okay, that's so interesting.
Yeah,
So
I'm
like
I'm
what
not a
made you
confrontational person.
Yeah, no, I get that. What made you like decide to make the move to like fight professionally then?
When I started fighting as an amateur, I started fighting to defend myself. Uh, and when it came down to me taking amateur fights, I just they keep putting me with fighters, and I didn't care who it was because I didn't really want to fight, but they just kept putting me against people. So I would show up to the fights, I would make weight, I would fight and win, and it'd be easy. And I would fight and win, and it'd be easy over and over, like 26 times in a row. I won until I fought Sodiq, and every fight just seemed so easy. I never really got hurt. I never really nothing. I break my own hands. Like nobody hurts me. So uh, from amateur to pro, I was still afraid of striking at this time, and I would just wrestle, touch gloves, take someone down, submit them. Touch gloves, take someone down, submit them. And when I turned pro, the same thing happened until I got comfortable. Then people started talking like this kid's UFC level, and I don't know. I just kept going. Eventually, I made it here.
Wow. Okay, I feel like that's a very unusual story for a UFC fighter. And
Yeah, it's not like my dream. I don't chase gold. I don't chase glory. I just do what I have to do.
yeah,
It's a
no, I
way
get
to
that.
live. It's a way to have financial freedom. Something that fell into my lap.
Right. So in your training then, like, does that mean that you kind of are more attracted to like the gentler martial arts, like grappling, or is striking more exciting to you then?
No, training I love because training, if we are sparring and you get dropped or you get kicked hard, then you take a second, you break, you
Hmm.
you say, okay, I understand what I did wrong. You correct it, you fix it, you become a better martial artist. That's the art of it. But when you fight, it's just brutal. Kill this person. Like that's the only thing you have to do. Because I always think of fighting as to the death. It is literally to the death. Because if the referee wasn't there, that rear naked choke, you die. I kill you. I hold it until you die. Or like I break your arm, I break your leg, I tear you limb from limb. It's just if the ref isn't there, you die. So I just think of it as we're fighting to the death in that cage. That's why I don't like fighting. It's brutal.
Right. Okay, that's so interesting. Um, wow, I'm just so shocked. I mean, I love
Mhm.
training as well, but I mostly do jujitsu because I just decided that getting hit in the face feels too brutal for me. So I kind of understand your mindset from a more like less intense point of view. You know what I mean?
I got you.
Yeah. So what do you like to do outside of fighting and
Game.
training, I guess, outside of fighting and training?
Yeah.
Game?
So I'm a streamer. I do stream on Kick, Twitch, YouTube. Well, not so much YouTube, but mostly Kick and Twitch and TikTok, unfortunately. But I love TikTok.
I've seen your stuff on
And
TikTok. Yeah.
yeah, so I stream on TikTok now a lot. I'm just a gamer. Gamer's the second thing in my life that saved me. So I do love to game, and I'll probably game forever. Outside of that, I like to travel, I like to hike.
Oh, nice. What are some of your favorite places you've gone to hike?
Thailand in the mountains. There's like a it's like a monkey hill, monkey mountain, something like that. Out in Thailand, it's just full of thousands of monkeys everywhere. And uh, I did it's out here, the Colorado River. They have a hot spring, Arizona hot spring. That's what it's called. The Arizona hot spring hike. And it's like 7 miles, but in the middle of it, there's a hot spring that gets hotter as you go into different sections. And it's honestly super relaxing. Then
That
you take a
sounds
cold plunge
amazing.
into the Colorado River because the Colorado River is freezing.
Right. Okay, well that sounds really fun. So my last question for you here is like the name association game where like I'll give you a name or like a word and you just rapid fire the first thing that comes to mind. Okay?
Name or word? Okay,
Okay. John Jones,
go.
Sugar Sean O'Malley,
What's the word? Arrogant.
Conor McGregor,
Hate him.
GSP,
Hate. Another goat.
Paddy Pimblett,
The worst. Next victim.
Dana White.
Bald.
UFC title,
Gold.
Dustin Poirier,
Uh, idol.
Charles Oliveira,
Submission artist.
Islam Makhachev.
Khabib number two.
Oh, okay, those were great. Thank you so much. And thank you
Yeah.
so much for making the time to meet with me. Those are all the questions I had for you today. I hope you have a great fight week, and I'm really looking forward to your fight on Saturday.
Awesome. Yeah, I got media. I go to media in like 10, 30 minutes. I gotta leave.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah,
Simple.
I know it's a busy week, so I'm really glad you found the time to squeeze me in here. Really
Of
appreciate
course.
it.